Okay.
And it's 3 o'clock, so are we ready to open the waiting room?
Okay. Starting now.
All right, opening the waiting room.
You like that? Like that? So let's start again.
Hi, everyone. Welcome.
Hi. Hello. Hey. Okay, okay. Is it recording?
Hi, welcome.
Yes, it is.
All right. Well, welcome to the Animal Liberation Online Assembly. We're excited to share this workshop with you today, Self-Care for Young Activists. We're just going to wait a few minutes to get started so we give people a little more time to join in on the call. And while we're waiting, if you guys want to put in the chat where you're joining us from. All right, For those of you just joining, welcome to the Animal Liberation Online Assembly. This is Self-Care for Young Activists. We're just waiting a few more minutes to get a couple more people to join in here. And let's definitely turn on our cameras if we're able to. Before we jump into things, I'm just going to give you a little bit of information. This is a workshop and not a talk, so we are asking that you actively participate today in the chat and by participating in other activities. So make sure that you have your video and your audio on if possible. And we are using Zoom video conferencing software today, so you'll be able to see each other and interact in the chat and ask questions to the presenter. You can put questions in the chat throughout, and we'll make sure that those questions get answered at the end of the presentation. A few things about Zoom, speaker view versus gallery view. You can click the tile button in the top right or swipe on the phone app. To view the chat, you can click the chat button on the bottom bar of the call. If you want to rename yourself with your name, preferred pronouns, and your location, and also if you can put your location in the chat for everyone. You can click the box with the 3 dots on the top right of your thumbnail and rename. And all participants in our online events are expected to uphold the DXC Code of Conduct, which you can view at dxe.io/conduct. This includes interactions in the chat, how you present yourself on the video, and violations will mean that you could get removed from this call. And then as a disclaimer, Zoom video conferencing software has been being used by many groups and organizations to facilitate online meetings and place in-person events during this pandemic. So Zoom bombing, unwelcome visitors joining a meeting and disrupting, often by taking over the screen with graphic videos, has become a concern for many of us, and we are taking extensive precautions to ensure that our Zoom meeting is set up in a way to prevent this. We do have a team behind the scenes of each call monitoring for trolls and ready to react to the situation. However, this is a risk with this form of communication. We cannot fully guarantee that an attack like this will not happen at ALOA. So please know that if you're joining in, you are putting yourself at risk for witnessing one of those attacks. So one last time before we get going here, you are joining in for self-care for young activists. And today, Jillian Walters and Kingston, or King Zoom, will be facilitating. I'll turn it over to you guys.
Thank you, Kathy. Hi, everybody. I'm just going to switch over to the slideshow. How would I do that, King? You go here, then you go to your then your slideshow, if you can find it. I want to share screen. Okay, what you want to do is no. I think you want to go share screen. How do I share screen?
Jillian, you can just click at the bottom of your screen. There should be like a green share screen button.
But for now, okay. I think I know what to do. I know Zoom. Share screen. Then you go to self-care with young activists. Then you go share. Then you should go like that. Everyone sees it, I think, how to. There you go. Okay, I'm glad I have you. No problem. Thank gosh, right? There you go. Okay, so welcome everybody to Self-Care for Young Activists. We're so happy to be here. I want to thank everybody who took the time to join us this afternoon. Opportunity to meet again. Whoops, are we muted?
You're good.
Okay. Welcome to any new families and young people. I wanted to acknowledge that we are experiencing a unique time in our history, and many of us have feelings of fear, anxiety, worry, loss on so many levels. And so much has changed in the last few months, and our world is completely different since last year. And as vegan animal activists, we carry something called the burden of knowing. So on top of everything else, we deeply understand and bear witness to the suffering of animals. We know this has not been the first pandemic related to animal exploitation, nor will it be the last pandemic if society and the corporations who fund animal agriculture do not stop exploiting animals. This is challenging, but I truly believe that each one of us is resilient, even though sometimes we might not feel that way. So my hope is that this workshop will renew our sense of community, remind you of your resiliency, and encourage you to make self-care a priority in your life. You want to introduce yourself to people that might not know you, Kingston? Okay. So my name is Kingston. You may know me as Kingston the Mean Kid, and I am 16. I started activism about when I was age 7, and I've been vegan since birth. I have been lucky to learn about the importance of self-care since I was very young. I practiced positive self-care, meditation, and exercise, and used mind maps. And my name is Jillian, and I'm Kingston's mom. And I have been a vegan since the early 90s and became involved in activism when Kingston was born. I'm a registered clinical counselor. My background is in working with children and families who have experienced violence and addiction. I've studied the somatic expressive arts therapies extensively and work from a trauma-informed perspective.
My therapeutic philosophy is that we all possess the innate wisdom to heal, and I believe working with the mind and body equally helps us to heal spiritually. So my hope is that through education, awareness, and action, we can become resilient activists, and that ripple effect will create safe, inclusive communities and sustain our movement. And Kingston's just going to do a land acknowledgement.
I invite us to acknowledge the traditional, ancestral, and unceded territories, its peoples, their descendants, and future generations, whose land rests beneath our feet and of whom we share this land with. If it feels true for you and you know them by name, I invite you to inwardly name the traditional communities that are local to you. You can do that now. A land acknowledgement. Okay. Land acknowledgement is a small step in reconciliation. I ask that each of you take time to educate yourself on the privileges you have on this land because of colonialism. Take time to learn about your local Indigenous communities and reconciliation. Seek ways in which you can support your local Indigenous community.
So I'm just going to break down the program to show you what we'll be doing in the next 2 hours. During the program, there's going to be times where you're going to be encouraged to move. So maybe get up, move your body, breathe, and it may feel silly or different to do that in front of other people. So I just want you to balance that kind of, does this feel right for me in the moment? Is this too scary? Do I need to push myself a little bit? And I want to remind you that this is totally a non-judgmental space. So just remember that no judgment when it comes to that. So we've done the introduction, the land acknowledgement, and we're going to start with 2 exercises. And we're going to look at self-care. Why is it specifically important for activists? We're going to look at mindfulness and resilience, and then we're going to do another exercise. Then we're going to take a break for a 5-minute break, and we're going to come back and do some creative art. And we'll have a sharing circle at the end. If people are interested in sharing, that's up to you. And then we'll do a closing meditation and question and answer. Okay, so we're going to do the shake off. I wish I could see myself better. Do you know how to do that?
Do I have to okay, let me see.
So I don't know if you can see me, but I just encourage you to stand up if you can. Okay, can I see myself?
Let me see. Let me do it. I really don't know. Oh, what? Shoot.
I'm trying to see myself, Joanna, so I have a sense of if people can see me.
Where's your cursor?
If you go into the top right corner and click view options, can you see side by side mode at all?
No, I can't. I can't see the cursor for some reason. Oh, there it is, right there. There we go.
Yeah. Okay, right there. That's weird, hey?
Yeah. Oopsies.
I guess because it's on.
Yeah.
Okay. Just let me know if you can see me.
Yep, we can see you.
Okay,
Your
so
head's a little cut off.
Okay. Watch me do the drum. You're shaking off. So stand by me.
Okay.
So this is called Shake Off Your Worries. And this is like one of my favorite things to do. And I'm getting so brave about doing it that I'll even do it like in a grocery store if I'm feeling like stressed or something. So here we go. We're going to start at the top of our head. And we're just going to shake off any kind of worries or negative emotions that you have. No, is there anything specific that happened today that you just want to get rid of? You don't want to have it connected to you anymore. Shake it off. If it's really heavy, I like to flick it. So if something's really negative, just flick it out there. Now we're going to go down our neck and our chest, our shoulders, Feeling a little lighter, actually. One of the worries I had today was technology. I'm so used to doing this with people face to face that I'm worried that it's not gonna come across. So I'm just gonna shake that off. I'm not gonna worry about that. I'm gonna shake it off the back of my neck. Brush it off our legs, back of our calves, and right down the end of our heels, right off. And an overall shake. Just breathe normally. Okay. Now we're going to do another exercise, and Kingston's going to do a drum beat. So we're going to start off slow, and we're going to get really fast, and then we're going to calm ourselves down again. Mm-hmm. And remember, it feels really silly if you haven't done it before, but it's quite fun. So I encourage you to try it out. Okay. Go, Kingston. Okay. So we're just gonna move to the beats. Can you hear the drum?
We can hear it. It sounds like the drum's gotten pretty quiet.
Quiet. See anybody, so I'm hoping everybody's doing this. We've just got up really high, now we're taking it down. Okay. How was that for everybody? I can't see anybody.
Some folks were saying they couldn't hear the drum at different times. I heard it kind of come in and out.
Okay.
I did stop your screen sharing just so we would return back to gallery view and we could see everyone. So if you want to put your slides up again, you'll just have to do the screen share again.
Okay.
You want me to do it?
Yeah.
Want me to be your secretary kind of thing? Okay, it's good. Okay. I don't really know how I did this either. Share screen. There you go.
And even the people who couldn't hear the drum said they had fun dancing.
Oh, yay.
Yeah.
Okay. So I hope everybody's feeling a little more grounded. I know I am. I've shaken off some of my worries. And let's look at self-care. So what is self-care? So self-care is the practice of taking an active role in maintaining one's emotional, physical, and spiritual needs. How do we practice self-care? Please, those are all good self-care activities. Self-care is so important for activists. Well, because it protects us against burnout. And burnout is something you may have heard adults say when they're feeling tired, overwhelmed, they lose interest in things. And it's experienced by helping professionals like ambulance drivers, firefighters, doctors, nurses, but activists are also helpers. So we're working to save animals and our planet when society doesn't value our beliefs as they do other frontline responders. So it's very important as a community that we help support each other and make self-care a priority. So if you think about when you became vegan, when you declared yourself a vegan, think about that moment and think about the things that transpired over those months or those days or those weeks. Were your family and friends supportive, or did they ridicule you? Did they get angry that you weren't eating the same things that they were? You were also feeling the burden of knowing. So what I said before, you understand to the extent that animal exploitation is taking place, but not everybody sees that. And sometimes they do see it and they're still not going vegan. So that can be distressing, overwhelming. It can create some grief and despair and disbelief. And it can leave one's feeling powerless. What if, what are your experiences in school? Were your other friends vegan? Are you able to relate to non-vegans? And sometimes feelings of guilt from participating in the consumption of animals before you were vegan. And sometimes there's feelings of guilt that you just can't do enough, that there's so much to do. So these are some of the challenges that ethical vegans face. When you get into activism, you may not have experienced bearing witness or protesting. And sometimes when you're doing these activities, you're witnessing violence against animals and you're witnessing them on their way to their death. And sometimes the violence is targeted towards activists. Vegan activists sometimes take part in disruptions, rescue, and investigations. And I know some young people risk their freedom and have encounters with police, which can be scary. And sometimes the violence, again, is directed towards activists. And sometimes even if you're just researching or campaigning, doing things online, the social media targeted towards activists can be very bullying, and there's online bullying, and often if you're investigating something, you're seeing lots of imagery, violence against animals. So these are very challenging things, and they're not always talked about openly, but I think it's really important that we talk about these things, because if we talk about it, then we can support each other. And I like to use the analogy of the boiling kettle. So you have a boiling kettle on the stove full of water, and it's boiling, and it's steaming and whistling and calling for attention. And if you don't take it off the stove, it's going to boil dry. And that's kind of the same thing that can happen to activists. If they're not practicing self-care, eventually you're going to run out of energy, maybe get discouraged, and maybe not want to be part of the movement anymore. But the thing is, we are all resilient. And if we just take time to look inside, we can realize that. So these are some things to think about. Am I creating space in my life for my passion? Or is it all consumed with activism? Am I getting enough sleep? Am I eating healthy food or just junk food? Is my diet balanced? Is my community supporting me? Do they support me if I want to take some time away and focus on myself? Am I giving myself permission to take a social media break? And is my inner voice kind? So a lot of times we have that inner voice, right? How is that voice talking to yourself? We're just going to take a minute now, just a minute, and just meditative minute, and think to yourself. I want you to say something nice about yourself. You don't need to share it, just quietly do this with yourself. So I want you to remember what you've said about yourself and just hold that in your heart and keep it there. So self-care equals mindfulness. Do you want to read that?
Want me to?
Mindfulness is about being still and listening to the inner wisdom we already possess.
Okay. The animals need us to take care of ourselves so we can be the best we can be.
That's right. There's kind of this unwritten law or something in animal activism where we, there's so much to do and we're a very percentage of society that's doing anything. So it's like we need to be doing everything all the time. And what we really need to do is take some time for ourselves so that we can be the best that we can be. And it's okay. So self-care can build your resiliency. And resiliency is the ability to manage difficult or traumatic experiences without long-term negative effects, the ability to rebound to resource states after an overwhelming experience. And it can be difficult sometimes because how do we build resilience when we are surrounded by animal exploitation? We are constantly reminded of the cruelty and suffering everywhere we go. And one thing you can think about is if you're ever feeling alone, maybe your support system isn't there and you're going through a tough time, look at your history. Even if you're a young person, we've all been through challenges, big or small. Look at your history. How did you manage through those most difficult struggles? What allowed you to get to where you are today? Something inside of you, something strong, and that's your resiliency. Find strength in the history of your ancestors. Ask them how they got through their struggles. So self-care mindfulness is like tending to a garden. It takes time and commitment. Kind of like brushing your teeth. So we all get up every morning and we brush our teeth. We don't even question it. It's just part of the routine. We brush our teeth before we go to bed. So why don't we take 2 to 3 minutes a day to focus on ourselves through mindfulness? So it really helps if you wake up in the morning and start with 2 minutes of silence just to check in with yourself and maybe set an intention for the day. So we can try that right now. We're going to take 2 minutes on the clock.
Do you want me to set timer?
Yes. And you can just set an intention. You can either just be still and watch your thoughts. Don't focus on any of your thoughts. Just let them go by. Or you can set an intention for this evening. Okay, did you set it for 2 minutes?
Mhm.
Okay, sit back and do it. Just watch your breath. Just breathe normally.
Okay. I don't want to check off right now.
Okay, so that was 2 minutes. I'm curious how that was for people because I know it felt like a really long time. So it just kind of reminded me how it's so easy to say, you know, be mindful, take time for self-care, but it's actually quite hard till we get in the routine of things. So mindfulness can be incorporated into your actions as activists. So you can remain peaceful in your tone and in your action. And you can get in a routine of checking in with your body. So no matter what you're doing, if you're sensing something's going on, just ask yourself, is this something I want to do? Do I feel comfortable in this situation? Do I have support? And the other thing that I highly recommend is, do I need to take a social media break? So now, in speaking of self-care, we are going to take a break. We're going to take a 5-minute break. And so feel free to get yourself,
You want me
do
to
whatever
set
you need
another
to
timer?
do, get some water and come back and join us. And if there's any questions, feel free to type them in there. We're going to come back and do a creative exercise.
Want me to set timer?
Okay. So if I stop screen sharing, I can do that, right?
Mm-hmm.
Or you can
Do you want me to do this again?
It's hard to tell if people heard me, so stop share.
Mm-hmm.
Jillian, there's a question in the chat about if people should grab anything for the creative exercise while they're up. Oh, you're muted.
Yeah, that's a great question. If there's something around there, grab it. We're going to use whatever you feel comfortable with. So if it's drawing, I don't think there's enough time for painting, but whatever you see, drawing, felts, you can even do a gesture or a movement. You can use your voice. So it doesn't necessarily have to include materials. You can use your body.
Muted or leave it
So
on?
cute, Nico.
Mhm.
I think
Yeah, you are muted. You're not muted.
yeah, I know.
Mm. I got that homework. Right? And then There you go.
Mhm. That was fast, 5 minutes.
Can they hear you?
I hope so.
No, they can't.
Yes, it's off.
We can hear.
Okay.
Yep, we hear you.
Okay.
Okay, cool. Welcome back, everybody. So, I've talked about self-care and resiliency, and we've practiced some mindfulness. I'd like for you to take the next 12 to 15 minutes to create something that expresses how you are going to practice your self-care going forward from this day. It might be something you're already doing. It might be something you want to implement in your routine. You can also ask yourself, what makes me resilient? And if you want to create something answering that question, that's fine too. So how do I practice self-care, or what makes me resilient? And there's absolutely no right or wrong answer to this activity. It's all about what you want to do. And there's absolutely no judgment. So you could create a song, you could do a dance, make a dance move, a single move, a rap, right? A rap, a poem, a drawing, or even just a gesture. So we're going to come back in 15 minutes. And if you feel comfortable, hopefully we can all share our images up at the screen, or your movement, whatever you decide to do. So most importantly, have fun doing this exercise. And we will see you in 15.
We can do it. There we go. You got it. Awesome.
Is there any questions?
What's everyone saying? Everyone can hear.
Okay, let's do something. Do you want to do some part?
Do whatever you wanna.
Okay.
Jillian, you're muted there. There's a question from Nico saying, is there something specific that this has to be about?
Hi, Nico.
Hello.
So I kind of put out the question, what makes me resilient? So what makes you resilient? How do you get through things when things are tough? Or you can create something based on what types of things do you do to practice self-care, or maybe something that you want to do in the future to practice self-care. Does that help?
Got a chat here. You can write on the chat if you want. Okay, 2 more minutes, everybody. Probably 1 minute now. Where's my screen share? Let me fix it again. I got this. Da, da, da. We can hear her.
Mhm. Do you want to add anything?
That's good. How many more minutes? Okay. How many more minutes is it? Okay. There, dang it, I did it wrong. It's like that, and then it has green. It has like green around it. So their logo is like, it has green. It has green around it. Okay, so do you see that one? That's green. It has the blue, then it has that.
Is it time yet?
Come on. That looks kind of like it, right?
Mm-hmm.
I did my best.
Mm-hmm.
Let's see.
I'll turn it off now.
Okay, everybody. I don't know.
Hi, everybody. Welcome back. So that was 15 minutes. And how was that for everybody? Did anybody get I can't see everybody, so would anybody like to share their creation?
They can hear you. Do you want me to do it?
We can hear you.
Oh no, we have to.
So if anybody would like
We're
to
not on
share.
screen share again.
Okay, so we
Can
can
you
look at the thing.
can you see everyone now, Jillian?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. So maybe we'll keep the screen share off just for this part.
Yeah.
Cool.
Well,
And so if folks do want to share, we have everyone muted just so that we reduce background noise. And if you do want to share, maybe you can just write that you want to in the chat, or you can just put a little star like that in the chat, and then I'll know to unmute you. Bailey's asking in the chat that she has a poem that uses certain words. Maybe if you can see the chat, Jillian, you can see what they are, regarding motherhood. Is she still able to share that? Jillian says yes. All right, so maybe we'll start with Bailey then. Cool, I'm gonna unmute you, Bailey.
Hi, everybody. Can everyone hear me?
yes.
Hello.
So I'm outside, so the weather is kind of really, really windy, so it might catch up on the wind and the birds and all that. But as long as everyone can hear me for now, I will share a little poem story that I wrote. And just to preface this, I am not a mom, but I am a mom to my companion animal, who is a rabbit. Her name is Willow, and she is really, really important to me. And even though I'm not a mom to like a human, I still see her as my child, and she is really, really important to who I am. And being a woman is also really important to who I am. So this is kind of what I wrote this poem about. So, all right. It's called I Am a Mother. I am a mother, regardless. I hold within me empathy, compassion, resiliency. I am a mother, though I have no human child. My body is the earth, the moon, the waves. My fertility is that of the spring blossoms and blowing wind. My arms hold to my breast the small creatures, their whiskers tickling my neck. I am a mother, guarding fiercely with my life the lives of those forgotten and tread upon. My voice is not small, and no man or hand will silence me. I am a mother, beautiful, strong, protective, guardian of all things beautiful, voice for those unheard, and I will never be destroyed because I am a mother.
Awesome.
The end.
That was a great one.
Thank you, Bailey.
Thank you.
That was beautiful.
Thank you.
Lots of positive comments there, Bailey. People saying beautiful and thanks for sharing. It looks like Cristiano, was that a why for you want to share? Oh, I guess no. Okay, that's not. Cool. Is there anyone else who wants to share? You can just write that you do want to share in the chat. I think someone a while back had said they needed a couple minutes. Sarah said in 1 more minute.
Did you want to share yours? Or handshake thing? No.
I don't know.
Let's share it. Well, me and Kingston will share ours. I realize I need to be more silly, and being silly is part of, I'm going to try and be more silly for self-care.
Okay.
So here we go.
Okay.
Let's do our thing.
Do we have to like put this over here a bit?
No.
There you go.
Okay. Stand up. I don't know if you can see it.
Okay.
Okay.
So you go like that, and that, and that, and that, and like that. I honestly, as a thing about handshakes, you have to work on them. They're work in progress. For sure. But yeah.
Looks like Edison said that they would like to share.
Love the silliness. Thank you.
Edison, I'm going to unmute you.
Hi everyone, how you doing? My name is Edison in Vancouver. So for me, a great way for me to just connect with myself is to be able to play my guitar. And so for me, music, it feeds my soul. It just brings me back to just being lost in the moment, you know what I'm saying? And not having to worry about anything else that's going on out there for however long that I'm playing my guitar and singing. And so, yeah, 15 minutes was nice to give me a chance to just play a few different songs. And so the first song that came to me was just a fun one. I don't know what it's called. It's an oldie. It's kind of like a Run Around Sue, I think. I don't know. It's an oldie, but it's a fun, upbeat one. And then the next song that I played was Imagine by John Lennon. And for me, normally the music is what I really resonate with. But with that song, the words are so powerful. And for me, the words resonate as well. Because, yeah, for me, I'm always looking towards actually developing a world where we're all united. There are no borders, boundaries, that we all, understand that we're all connected. And so that song's very powerful. And then the last one Reason, like, reminds me of just kid.
Yeah.
There
Thank you.
No.
Thanks.
It looks like a link for a picture.
Oh, cool.
So sorry, I got kicked out of the meeting for a second. Are we moving on to Sarah? Do we need to unmute her?
We
Yeah.
were just looking, Sarah and Bodhi had shared a picture of what they had been working on.
Yeah. Sarah, could you send the link once more and I'll open it up and share my screen? I'm going to unmute you too if there's something that you want to say.
Loves water. That's probably his most important one. And good food and family. And we even have that one picture with Kingston and Nico and Evan and Bodhi and Salt Lake City. And
Yeah.
so seeing other kids involved with activism always helps us
Yeah.
feel better.
For sure.
Yeah, so.
Yeah, great.
Oh, yeah.
Awesome.
That's awesome.
Yeah, I remember that in Salt Lake City.
Yep.
That was that. Yeah.
Thanks for sharing.
Thank you.
Awesome.
It's so important to know that we have community, that there's other people out there just like us. Is there anybody else that wants to share before we move on to?
All right, Laura and Alice said that they would share.
All right, Laura, you should be unmuted now. Yeah.
All right, I just drew a drawing and basically, oh, it's kind of dark. So it's basically riding my bike
Wow.
to the ocean. And then there I would just listen to the sounds and smell the smells and or call a friend or family and then also listen to music.
Awesome.
Yeah. And it was nice to draw too. It's like just a nice little like mindless activity. So
For sure. For sure.
Thanks for sharing, Laura.
Yeah.
Thanks.
And Alice, did you want to go next? I'll unmute you.
Yeah, sure. Thanks. I just was, yeah, I think I went with the prompt of what makes me resilient, and I just wrote a bunch of stuff. Like this is, yeah, I love just self-reflection and journaling anyway. So this is just pretty fun. Let's see. So. Humility makes me resilient. Not taking things personally, seeing adversities as learning opportunities, having openness to admit when I need support. Yeah, mindfulness makes me resilient. I'm meditating every day, mind consciously eating all the yummy vegan food, even when I'm stressed out. Having the ability to reflect on how I'm doing and just make adjustments. And I think being okay with feeling, really feeling all kinds of emotions without trying to make them go away, just like really seeing them, recognizing them, and try to express them, like safely and in like in a powerful way. Anyway, those are some things that I wrote that were bouncing around in my head.
Thank you, Alice.
Thank you. For sure. Anyone else? I don't know.
Anybody else want to share before we move on? Okay, I'll go back to screen share. And thank you everybody for being creative and putting yourself out there and sharing. Thank you. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, screen share over there.
So we are just rounding up our time together, and we're going to close with a grounding meditation. It's one of our favorites. And then we'll have time for a question and answer at the end. So if everybody just wants to get comfortable, you can stand or you can sit. I'm going to stand because I feel more like a tree if I'm standing, and it's a tree meditation. So if you're standing, just if you have a favorite tree, you can embody that tree. If not, you can think of a tree that you really want to be. I like arbutus trees. What trees do you like?
I like oak trees.
Oak trees.
Oak trees,
okay.
yeah, because they're really good for fires, like warm fire stuff.
Yeah.
I don't know if just you need them.
So we're gonna stand like a tree, very, very strong. And just breathe in and exhale. And just feel your feet connecting to the ground or the floor, whatever's beneath you. You might want to like ease into your feet, kind of bounce. So you get a sense of just how strong and powerful your tree is. And breathe. Think about those roots, all those roots, tangling down into the earth, through your feet, bypassing the dirt and the worms and the pebbles and the rocks. They can go on forever, those roots, and they're really anchoring you to the ground. Now we're going to focus on our trunk. We have a very solid trunk, but it's able to sway back and forth. So just breathe into that. It's strong, but it can sway. So if there's a big, powerful storm, it's resilient enough that it can stay grounded and move around and flow. Now we've got our branches. They're a little bit lighter, but they're still strong. So maybe stretch out those branches as tall as you want. They're stretching towards the sun.
Into the sun.
And they're taking in all that oxygen and all that sunlight, and it's helping the tree grow nice and strong. And imagine if a storm does come, that trunk is really, the branches are waving all over, but that trunk is still connected to the ground. And just breathe in, knowing that the tree that you're embodying is strong and resilient. And just take another deep breath. If you want to close your eyes and just visualize the tree as well as embodying it. Now that image that you've captured of that tree, that strong tree that's grounded to the earth, that's strong enough to withstand a storm, that reaches for the sunlight when it needs to. Keep that image inside your heart, and when you need it, think about that again. Thank you. So thank you. I'm going to turn off the screen share now so I can see everybody.
Do you want me to do it?
Sure. Up for any questions?
Where do we go back?
All right, so we're going to open it up for questions. If you have a question or maybe even just something that you'd like to discuss or for the group to discuss, you can put it in the chat. I'm going to unmute everyone now and then mute you all again, but this time you'll have the ability to unmute yourselves. So that way it can be a little bit more interactive. And if we are going to get into more of a discussion or you'd like to add something in the conversation and someone else is speaking, you can just put a star in the chat just like this, or just, type in the chat like I want to go next or something, and then we'll know to call on you next, just so we're not all talking over each other. Okay, so I'm going to mute everyone and give you, so now you're able to unmute yourselves, and yeah, if anyone has questions or things they want to bring to the group, now's the time. Bailey says, Bailey says that she wants to share something. So yeah, you can go ahead and unmute yourself, Bailey.
Awesome. So can everyone hear me? I know it's really windy out here.
Yeah, Zoom seems to be doing a pretty good job of cutting out the wind.
Awesome. So my question or comment was, as I already told you all, my companion animal is a rabbit and her name is Willow, and she's super, super important to me. But one thing that I find really difficult when doing activism, or when going online, or just even learning about like animal exploitation, it's hard because rabbits are one of those animals that are hurt a lot because people experiment on them, they do cosmetics testing on them, people eat rabbits or use their fur. So what is a good way to not get too overwhelmed when you see an animal that you love and that you have a really deep emotional connection to? So how can you, basically, how can I act without, seeing that poor hurt rabbit as my rabbit?
That's a great question, Bailey. Thanks for asking that. It's really difficult because we're surrounded by it. And I think one thing that I've learned and that I realized is to kind of limit the amount of imagery that we're consuming. So I know that what happens to rabbits, and if there's any way you can limit any more imagery pertaining to that and focus on the fact that your rabbit has a happy life, and it's because of you that your rabbit has a happy life. Like, you've done something amazing for this little rabbit. It's hard, but it's trying to focus on the positive. I know a lot of us consume a lot of imagery, and in the beginning it feels like we need to, because we need to be aware of everything, but once we know, and we don't need to subject ourselves to the imagery anymore. So I hope that helps.
Thank you. Yeah, sorry, I hope everyone can hear me. It's, again, really windy. But yeah, that is really helpful because, yeah, I guess what you said is true. Once you have seen the imagery, once you know the facts, why go and torture yourself by looking over those images over and over again? Once you see it, you don't have to make yourself suffer. Basically, I guess, I can use the knowledge and the things that I've seen and known and use that to make an impact, rather than just going around and around in those negative cycles.
Let's go. Yeah, for sure.
All right, so we'll go to the next question. Cristiano is asking, although we know this is really important, how can we convince ourselves and others that self-care is this important?
Yeah, so I think we need to make it something that we talk about all the time. And we need to, like most of us here, you committed yourselves to an afternoon of self-care, and that's amazing. And we need to embody it in all of our actions, and we need to make it a priority so that other people can see that we're making it a priority. It's like a ripple effect. And if, you know, organizations that they need to make self-care a priority, they need to make it in their organizational the way they organize, they need to make self-care a priority. So if somebody needs a break, it's okay. There's no shame in taking a break, that there's other people there to support you. Mm-hmm.
It looks like Madhu wanted to speak, so you should be able to unmute yourself, Madhu.
Yeah, I have a question for Jillian, and I have a question for King too.
Okay.
Yeah, one question for you, King. Like, what made you become an activist? And I know I heard when you said, like, when you were 7 years old, you see something happening to animals, or is it because of your mother, or what was the reason? Yeah.
Well, like I said, I started like doing protesting. Then I started doing speaks across North America and going to conferences and all of that. But I think it was Tillicum that started. Yeah, Tillicum the orca, who was at SeaWorld Orlando for a few years until he died, what made me started to make me an activist and all that. Yeah. But yeah, I made lemonade stand for charity for BCFPCA, and that started. Then I started my activism more and more, and doing protests and every stuff like that.
Oh, wow, that's very inspiring. Yeah, thank you.
No problem.
Yeah, and Jillian, real quick question for you too. Like, what age do you think? I don't have children, but I have my brother and my sister's kids, like my nephews and nieces, and they are like between 4 years old to 10 years old. So, what age do you think, with we as an adult activist, we know what actually happens to the animals, and that's what we carry that around all the time inside our hearts, and that's why we need self-care. For the children, what age is appropriate age to show them actually example, what happens behind these walls of the farms and the slaughterhouses, so that children can, I mean, is it appropriate at any age, at that young age, like 4 or 5 years old, or?
Good. That's an awesome question. It's easier for your own kids. I know for Kingston, he didn't see anything really graphic until I guess we started doing protests and stuff, like maybe when he was 10 or 11.
No.
Yeah. But it was just, I raised him vegan. So it was just, I just told him the truth about what happens. I didn't show him anything graphic. I just told him. And then he saw it later on. But I really think it's up to the individual. And we are fed lies by the industry in utero, like before the child's even born. So I think it's really important to start telling them the truth from day one.
Yeah, for sure.
You don't necessarily have to show graphic images, but you have to say, this happens.
Yeah. What happened before and still now.
Yeah,
is what happened. Yeah.
Does that help?
It looks like there is another question in the chat from Bailey. And this one is for Zoom, I think, right? Yes. Oh, King of Zoom. It's kind of funny, actually. I thought about that today too, because I was like, I know your name that you go by is King Zoom, but also today we're on Zoom, and I thought that was kind of funny. So, Bailey said, do people bully you for your activism? How do you cope with that and stay strong? She's proud of you, and it's hard dealing with bullying even as an adult, and she experiences a lot of bullying online for her views and lifestyle.
Okay. No, I don't think so. Some activism I was doing, maybe. I don't think.
Were you bullied
Yeah,
in school though?
Oh, and
When you
bullied in
went to
school.
school?
Yeah, sometimes I was bullied in school. Then I started to, yeah. Yeah. Let me think.
We homeschool.
Yeah,
So
so that's easier now. But before, when I was in regular school, I got bullied a bit, and I couldn't. That was really hard for me to understand that and all that stuff. Yeah, but now that I'm homeschooled, it works a bit better. Then I don't have to be bullied as much as in regular school. For sure. Yeah.
Nico, do you have any comments on that, maybe? Do you go to school? No?
Yeah, no problem.
Cool. Well, does anyone else have any questions or topics they would like to bring to the group? All right, King, what do you think? Bailey
Yeah,
says she would like to hear if anyone else experiences bullying for their veganism or activism.
Yeah, for sure.
I guess I can share, and if anyone else wants to share too, we can do the star in the chat system. I think like when I first went vegan, I didn't realize that vegan was like a thing that you had to be ashamed of. Like I was just like, yeah, I'm vegan. I like went home from college one summer and then I came back the next year and I was just like telling all my friends like, yeah, I went vegan. And they were like, what? And I didn't realize that it was like a thing. And yeah, and no one really bullied me for it, but like from their reactions, I could tell that it was like, then it became a thing where I was like, oh, I should like be more like secretive about this or something. But I don't really feel like, you know, I was bullied. I think also like, you know, sometimes with bullying, like some of the things my mom taught me is kind of like part of it has to do with like your mentality. And if you can kind of laugh along with bullies, if what they're doing, you know, obviously if someone's being violent, that's like a very different situation. But if they're just teasing something, like you can kind of laugh along with them. So, you know, people would make comments like, oh, they would say like grazen every time I was eating because they thought it was funny that it was like grass or something. But I just kind of laughed at it because I was just like, whatever, like you probably don't even eat vegetables. So like, I don't care, you know? But I think that the biggest thing for me that's helped is just like finding other people who are vegan and who are animal rights activists and who like understand this value system. Because I think it can be really isolating. And I think like for me, that was the isolation was kind of harder than like some of the comments that people would make and stuff like that. And I think if you can find other people who, you know, kind of agree with this and who it's kind of like you can create like a vegan family or something if maybe your family or friends are not that supportive. So I think for me, that was definitely like the biggest thing. And I think it also helps to have other people who like understand our value system and who you can like kind of vent to and be like, oh my God, like this person said this thing and like it's totally, you know, just on my mind. And I'm sure every other vegan has probably heard like the same dumb jokes or whatever, you know. What did other people say? Leo says, I do a bit at school, but I've surrounded myself with people who respect me. Claire says, same as Leo. Anyone else want to chime in? You're all able to unmute yourselves, so feel free to just jump in, or if you're more comfortable typing, I can read out comments from the chat too. Bailey said, I wouldn't use the term bullying for my experiences, but it's an easier way to word it. People isolate me or tell me I'm going to get sick, but I know that there's a community out there and it's not their fault, as meat eating and using animals is the societal norm. Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. Anyone else want to go? Well, it's a Monday, so I love Mondays. Mhm.
Hey, is that
Any more? Are you doing more of your slides? Or is that all? Was that all of it?
so? How does everybody feel about closing then and saying goodbye
Already?
or see you later? Nico,
See you later.
thanks for coming, everybody.
Everybody, Sarah.
Oops.
Nico, what
See
does
you
your hat say? Is it one of those animal liberation hats?
Ah,
So animal defender. Nice.
That's
I
a
think
good
you got
one.
that at ALC, right? Yeah,
Uh-huh.
I recognize that.
That's not good hat. I miss the snacks of the Aussie. So tasty.
Kingston says he misses the food.
Yeah.
I know we were gonna have there's a new vegan restaurant that opened here in the since the last ALC, and they were gonna cater and everything, and I was so excited. But you know, they'll be here when ALC happens again. So
Yeah.
yeah, the food will just taste
2020.
even better next time.
Yeah, for sure. I bet it will.
Okay, thank you so much for joining and
Mhm.
taking the time out of your day to gather together today and talk about this really important topic. And also, I'll put up my, you can get in touch with me off my website if you want to, yeah.
Oh gosh, here we go again.
If you have any more questions. Last slide.
There you go. And there's me too. There we go.
Yeah, so if you have any questions that weren't answered, if something bubbles up over the week and you want to reach out, feel free to do so.
Yeah, awesome. Thank you so much, Jillian and King Zoom. We really appreciate you guys taking the time to host this workshop. And yeah, thanks to all of you for joining. So yeah, we'll hopefully see everyone again soon. Kathy, did you want to say something?
I was just going to say, it looks like Cristiano posted here that they wanted to share an interesting article about pressure and stigma that vegans suffer. And there's a link here to that.
Yeah. And the last thing I'll say, because I know that also there's like a little bit more of an adult audience today, there was a question that came up over the weekend about like which kind of ALOA workshops are like self-care oriented. And this was, you know, obviously one of them. We did a meditation workshop, I think last week. And then there's one coming up as well that's called Transforming Grief into Nonviolent Power. And that's all about basically how we can like use our grief to kind of make our like transforming our grief into nonviolent power. So like, how can we actually channel this like grief and anger that we all feel, which is healthy, you know, into action, and hopefully something that can achieve change at some point. So that is coming up. If you give me a second, I can tell you the date here, because I think that would probably be of interest to a lot of the people here. Sorry, my computer is very slow when I have Zoom calls open. So that one is going to be Thursday, May 21st at 5:30 Pacific time. And it's called Transforming Grief into Nonviolent Power. And you can find it on the ALC Facebook page too. There's like events for each one. So yeah, thank you again so much, Jillian and Zoom for facilitating today. And thanks everyone for taking some time to be together. And we'll see you all soon.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye, thank you. Bye, Cassie. Bye, Nico. Bye. Bye, Joanna. Bye.
Bye.
Bye, Peter.
Bye, Peter.
Bye.
Bye, bye, Addison.
Bye, Joanna. Bye, Lauren.
Bye,
Peter, Kathy.
Scientist.